Ode to Aphrodite is a poem which belongs to the paper Literature and Gender in the third semester MA English syllabus. The poem is written by archaic Greek poet Sappho. The poem is also interesting, or the poem is also unique for its time period when it was written. The poem falls along with the poems of Phyllis Wheatley and that of Akka Mahadevi, both of which are authored by women writers in a very early time. Sappho has written the poem somewhere around 600 BC, because Sappho lived in the Hellenic Greece during the 600 BC, and we see that the poem is interesting with its invocation with the Greek god Aphrodite. The poem is speaking about love. The major theme of the poem is love and the earning or the urge for the speaker of the poem to be loved by her beloved. So, over to the details of the poem. As I have mentioned, Sappho is a celebrated Greek poet, and she is considered as the 10th muse, the poetess. The 10th muse, we know that according to Greek mythology, there are 9 muses. It was Plato who called or who addressed Sappho as the 10th muse, along with 9 muses that influenced or inspired Plato. Sappho was the addition, she was the 10th muse who could inspire Plato. So Plato has accepted her inspiration, Plato has accepted her influence. Later, we also see her talent is making her a well known poet who is so good at her lyric poetry. She was one among the 9 lyric poets who were having a very celebrated life in Greece. Later, we see that her poems that were composed together, they were composed in the 6th century, that is in the 600 BC, and after her death, her poems were preserved in papers till the 3rd century. Many of her poems are missing till date because of the time that the poem has traveled. The writings or the manuscripts on papyrus, many of them got destroyed as well. But still, there are attempts made by historians, literary historians as such, to preserve these writings of a woman from the 600 BC. Interestingly, we get to know that she is a woman of lesbian gender identity, because she developed love towards women. Though she was married to a man, it is believed that she later killed herself for being failed in fulfilling her love for a ferryman. Likewise, different stories goes forward regarding Sappho, but we get to know that she was capable of bringing together the women of the island where she lived. The island was named Lesbos Island. It was from this island's name the term lesbian in English came up. The word sapphic in English is also from her own name, Sappho. So I was speaking about the cult that Sappho has created, or the cult that Sappho has made possible in the island of Lesbos. She brought together some women, and these young women were taught stories, they were taught literature, they were taught poetry, they were taught music and certain societal etiquettes that were very important for women in the Greek society. Along with that, these women were together worshipping Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of fertility and virtue. So we see here that the cult they formed is called Thiasos. So Thiasos was the cult they formed. They sat together, they worshipped Aphrodite, and they exchanged their literary writings. They learned new etiquettes, etc. So this is all about the poet Sappho, more than some figures and other dates, including in Sappho's life. I would like the students to understand Sappho as a person, because she was a person who celebrated love. She was married, but she fell in love with another man later. But she often developed love, affection, and love interest to other women of the island. It is said so. Everything regarding Sappho is being said so because she is such an old poet who belonged to the 6th century BC. So, as we move into the poem, it is very necessary that we understand how much devotion that Sappho is having towards this god of fertility, god of plenty, that is Aphrodite. Aphrodite is the Greek equivalent of the Roman god Venus, and she is the daughter of the great Greek god Zeus. And we know that as a goddess, she would be residing in heaven. The poem is an invocation towards Aphrodite to by the speaker, and we find in the poem the speaker herself is the poet. So Sappho is addressing Aphrodite, invoking to Aphrodite, the goddess, to come down from heaven and help her to make her beloved love Sappho. Sappho is sad because of this love that is not returned from her own lover. So Sappho is heartbroken. She wants some help. She is directly calling Aphrodite. Aphrodite comes from heaven, helps Sappho, and is leaving heaven. So this is a major plot of the poem that is being discussed here. Over to the poem. Ode to Aphrodite. Aphrodite, subtle of soul and deathless, daughter of God, weaver of wiles, I pray thee, neither with care, dread mistress, nor with anguish, slay thou my spirit. But in pity hasten, come now if ever, from afar of old when my voice implored thee. Thou hast designed to listen, leaving the garden house of thy father, with thy chariot yoked, and with doves that drew thee, fair and fleet, around the dark earth from heaven, dipping vibrant wings down the azure distance through the mid ether. Very swift they came, and though gracious vision leaned with face that smiled in immortal beauty, leaned to me and asked, what misfortune threatened, why I had called thee. So this is the first four stanza of the poem. The poem is describing about the arrival of Aphrodite. We see Aphrodite is a goddess. Aphrodite is coming with so much might and grandeur down from the heaven. We'll find the invocation here. The poem is more in the form of an invocation in the beginning. Later, we find the narration of Aphrodite regarding her issue. What is the cause of her sadness? What is the cause of her agony and pain is being narrated by Sappho to Aphrodite. And finally, towards the end of the poem, we find Sappho making a request to Aphrodite. So thus goes the poem. The poem is more in a Homeric style, where it is said that Sappho has adopted some incidents, some dialogues between Athena and Aphrodite, referring to Homer's fifth book of Iliad. So a few lines of the poem reminds the archaic writings of Homer's Iliad. So the first four stanza we'll be discussing now. Speaking of the first stanza, the first stanza is of course nothing but the invocation. Aphrodite is called by name. Aphrodite, subtle of soul and deathless, daughter of God, weaver of wiles, I pray thee, neither with care, dead mistress, nor with anguish, slay thou my spirit. So Sappho is saying that, dear Aphrodite, daughter of the great god Zeus, the creator of all hearing. That means Aphrodite is a goddess of love as well. So Aphrodite is capable of creating that love attraction between lovers. So Sappho is going to the right person, the goddess of love, the goddess of fertility, and is invoking her. So weaver of wile means the person who is creating that attraction between the lovers. I pray thee, I request thee, I am suffering here, I am dying out of pain, I am in anguish, I am in agony. Please come down from your heaven and help me. So that is the first invocation. She's giving a lot of adjectives to Aphrodite, daughter of God, weaver of wiles, etc. And Sappho is invoking Aphrodite down to the earthly world. But in pity hasten, come now if ever, from afar of old, when my voice implored thee, thou hast deigned to listen, leaving the golden house of thy father. Please come fast up from heaven. Here I am suffering. You must come and listen to me. I know you'll come listening to my voice listening to me in despair. So please come to me, please come fast from that faraway land, living the golden gardens of heaven, living the golden gardens of her father's palace, Zeus' palace. With thy chariot yoked, and with doves that drew thee, fair and fleet around the dark earth from heaven, dipping vibrant wings down their azure distance through the mid ether. So she is now describing how Aphrodite would be coming down to earth. So Sappho is saying Aphrodite would be, of course, coming in a chariot, the chariot that is driven by doves. Doves, sparrows, etc., are birds which are connected with Aphrodite. Aphrodite is the symbol of Aphrodite is these birds like doves. And sparrows, etc. So Aphrodite usually has a chariot that is driven by doves. So Sappho is asking Aphrodite to come down to earth in the chariot driven by the doves. Fair and fleet around the dark earth from heaven. You may be seeing the dark earth from heaven, which is all dark with the sins of the people, with the agony of the people. But you are from heaven and we are from earth. There is a gap between us. The gap is with the is mentioned here as the mid-ether. Mid-ether is an archaic word, or it is an archaic material that is believed to have filled the space between heaven and earth. So Aphrodite on her way would be coming across this mid-ether, or she would be coming on the way from heaven to earth. She would be coming in through a space that is filled with this material, mid-ether. That means something that is filling in the middle of earth and heaven. So fair and fleet around the dark earth from heaven, dipping vibrant wings down their sure distance. Sappho is asking Aphrodite to come down to earth uh, with her wings, with her vibrant wings down the assured distance, blowing her vibrant wings down the assured distance. That means the blue sky. Make use of your wings to fly down the blue sky and be present here on earth because I am in agony. So this is the pure invocation happening, and we'll see what is the result of the invocation in the next stanza. Very swift they came, though gracious vision leaned with face that smiled in immortal beauty, leaned to me and asked what misfortune threatened, why I had called thee. So Aphrodite has answered her invocation. Aphrodite has answered Sappho's prayers, and now Aphrodite is here. Sappho is all surprised and happy to see response to her prayer because Aphrodite has reached earth so fastly. That is why she is saying that very swiftly they came, and though gracious vision leaned with face that smiled in immortal beauty. So you came to me, you came so close to me and inquired what is the cause of my agony. Leaned to me and asked what misfortune threatened, why I had called thee. So Aphrodite comes closer to Sappho. Of course, it would be a coming closer with affection. Sappho is in agony. Sappho is completely devastated. The soul of Sappho is in pain. Aphrodite understands her and answers Sappho's prayer. So Aphrodite comes close to Sappho and asks, what misfortune threatened? Why I had called thee? Now it is Aphrodite enquiring why she was called down to earth by Sappho. Final stanza and the other two stanza, just before the final one, is a description what Aphrodite is telling to Sappho, and the final stanza is nothing but the request that Sappho is making to Aphrodite. What my frenzied heart craved in utter yearning, whom its wild desire would persuade to passion. What disdainful charms, madly worshipped, slide thee, who wrongs thee, Sappho? She that fain would fly, she shall quickly follow. She that now rejects, yet with gifts shall woo thee. She that heeds thee not, soon shall love to madness, love thee, the Lord one. Come to me now, thus, goddess, and release me from distress and pain, and all my distracted heart would seek. Do thou once again, fulfilling, still be my ally. That is a request that we will be seeing when we analyze the last stanza. Moving over to the other two stanzas. What my frenzied heart craved in utter yearning, whom its wild desire would pursue to passion, what disdainful charms madly worshipped slide thee, who wrongs thee, Sappho? That is a question, or that is the inquiry Aphrodite is making towards Sappho. What my frenzied heart craved in utter yearning, my mad heart is yearning for someone else whom its wild desire would pursue to passion. So, Sappho is asking a question. Will my heart be satisfied with the passion for that beautiful woman? What disdainful charms madly worshipped slide thee? He who wrongs thee, Sappho. So, Aphrodite asks, what charms are you finding yourself in? What charms you got trapped in? Who had charmed you? What mad hurt is not returning the love that you offers her? That is what we see here. But nowhere we understand that lover is a female till this stanza. It is in the next stanza we understand the lover is a female, because you have the pronoun she. She that fain would fly, she shall quickly follow. She that now rejects, yet with gifts shall woo thee. She that heeds thee not, soon shall love to madness, love thee, the loth one. So here the description comes, she that fain would fly, she who is not giving you any concern, who is not giving a regard to you, would come with regards to you. She would follow you with love. She would give you as much as love she could. She that now rejects, yet with gifts shall woo thee. She may be rejecting you now, but me, the god Aphrodite, would work and would make her to follow you with gifts and to woo you. She that heeds thee not, soon shall love to madness. She who is not giving you any concern now would come you with love, come you with mad love, not normal love, but mad love. Love thee, the loath one. So you are special, you will be loved. Don't be sad. This is the consolation that Aphrodite is offering to the speaker, that is Sappho. So coming to the fourth stanza, fifth and sixth. The fourth, fifth, and sixth stanzas all includes a narration. What was the request that Aphrodite is making? What was the request that Sappho is making to Aphrodite? How is Aphrodite responding to it, and how she is finding a solution to the request made? That is what being discussed in the fourth, fifth, and sixth stanza. In the fourth and the final stanza, we see a kind of request that Sappho is making to Aphrodite. Come to me now, goddess, and release me from distress and pain, and all my distracted heart would seek, do thou once again fulfilling, still be my ally. So she is making a request to goddess Aphrodite to be on her side, to be her friend, to be her supporter, to be her mentor always. Come to me now, thus, goddess, and release me from distress and pain. You have to come to me, or please come to me whenever I am in pain. Likewise, whenever my heart is in distress, please come to me again, and all my distracted heart would seek, do thou once again fulfilling, still be my ally. My heart is seeking you to be my friend. My heart wants you to be my friend. This is what Aphrodite Sappho wants Aphrodite to do. So, as I have mentioned in the very beginning of the poem has a typical Greek style of a narration, where you have the first three stanzas speaking about or invoking the goddess, and then the three stanzas following is a narration of the events, especially the exchange between Sappho and goddess Aphrodite. Aphrodite speaking about the love, Sappho speaking about the love, and the love that is not returned from her beloved. And then we see Sappho speaking about her heartbreak, to which Aphrodite responds, consoling Sappho and assuring Sappho that the woman who is not loving you, who is not heeding you, would come to you, would follow you. That is a part, that is where the narration ends, and we move to the request that Sappho is making to Aphrodite in the final stanza. Now, these are again a little bit unique features of the poem. As I have mentioned now, the poem is in the form of a Greek prayer, where we see goddess Aphrodite is being invoked by the speaker, and the speaker is actually longing for the attention from a woman whose name is not mentioned. We only know that she is a woman, no other details are provided with. Only thing we know is that the woman is not returning the love that Sappho is offering her. So, when you examine the structure of the poem, typical of a Greek hymn, it has got an invocation followed by a narration and then the request, the final stanza, the request. So, the very beginning of the poem itself is an acceptance of the power of goddess Aphrodite, because we see here that Aphrodite, subtle of soul and deathless. Subtle of soul means which is very silent, not a violent god. Aphrodite is, and like any other goddess, Aphrodite is deathless as well. Daughter of God, weaver of wiles. All these adjectives are showered upon Aphrodite, because the power and nature of Aphrodite is being mentioned here in the very first stanza. So, it is very clear that the power and the nature of God is established, so that the first step of invocation is being made here. And as I have told you, the poem is also an imitation of the Homeric epic. We call it a parody of the Homeric epic because there are similar instances of communication or dialogue between Aphrodite and Athena in the book 5 of Iliad by Homer. So the poem is an interesting poem, especially in today's context where gender is being constantly discussed. We know that women writing during the 600 BC is something rare. But in Greece, where you have a very active literary life, that was not something very unique. But still, being a lesbian is a very unique thing. Sappho was a woman of that identity. There exists no historical documents to prove her identity, or many details of her life are missing, but still from the poem we read it, or we put it like that, that Sappho is a lesbian and she is invoking Aphrodite, praying Aphrodite to get the love returned from Sappho's beloved. So that is all about the poem. The poem, along with Eka Mahadevi's, it was like a stream, and Phyllis Wheatley's poem On Being Brought from Africa to America. All the three poems stand together in the module 2 as a separate creating a separate literary scenario, because these three women were capable enough in coming forward and putting their literary thoughts into work of literature. Thank you.